everybody. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial creating some fun ninjas. I got this original tutorial from Spoon Graphics. It was a step-by-step tutorial and I'm turning it into a video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a new file. I'm just going to use like 11 by 17. That'll give us like, it's kind of poster size, but we can go up here to where it says print, which is basically going to be a large piece of paper. We're going to choose tabloid. If you change the unit of measurements to inches, you'll see that that's 11 by 17, and we can also make it landscape. This is actually a lot larger than I need it to be, but it gives us a good area to kind of create this scene that we're going to create. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by actually creating one of our ninjas. So before we get started, I'm going to ask you to go to either Illustrator itself and go down to where it says Preferences, or if you're on a PC, you're going to go down to File and you should see your Preferences under File. And you're going to go to General, and here you should see it says Scale, Strokes, and Effects, and you're going to want to check that box, because what that's going to do is if we change the size of something, it's going to also scale the stroke. So if your stroke is at 1 point and you make it smaller, it's going to also make the size of your stroke smaller. So that can be really helpful when you're working in this program. Sometimes you might not want that to happen. Like if you want it to be 1 point and you want it to stay 1 point regardless of resizing the actual shape, then you're going to want to keep it unchecked. So the first tool that we're going to select is the ellipse tool, which is going to give us a circle. We're going to want to hold Option and Shift. You could just also hold down Shift. That's going to make sure that it's a perfect circle. I'm going to zoom a little bit in on my circle. So I'm hitting the Command and plus. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the rectangle tool and we are going to create a rectangle, and it's going to overlap the original circle. So this is actually going to be the body of our ninja. So you're going to want it to kind of extend a little bit below. And we're going to make sure that these are lined up perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of them, and either up here on your control bar, you're going to see some of these alignment options. You also can access them by going to Window and then going down to where it says Align, and they'll pop up here. And we're just going to center both of those. We're going to go down here to where it says Align To and make sure that Align to Selection is selected. And then we're going to hit center, and that'll make sure that those are perfectly in line with one another. So the next step is we are going to get 2 rounded rectangles for our legs. So we're going to go to the toolbar again and select the rounded rectangle tool. And we're going to just kind of draw our rounded rectangles here. And then instead of kind of copying, pasting, I'm actually going to just take the black arrow, which is our selection tool. I'm going to hold down the Option key, and you can see that that gives me a double arrow here. And I'm just going to click and drag. And that will give me a second leg. Now, I also want to create arms. So I'm going to, again, select my leg. I'm going to hold down that Option key, and I'm going to make 2 more duplicates. And now I'm going to make this like a little bit bigger, both of these. And I'm going to position them where I want them. Now, you'll notice that we right now have all these shapes kind of overlapping, and we want that to be the case. I feel like my legs need to be a little bit bigger here. And once we're done, we are actually going to be combining these shapes. Okay, but first we're going to create our face. Okay, so we're going to draw another perfect circle. I'm going to take that ellipse tool. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to make that. And then I'm going to also create an oval. And so I'm not holding the shift key in order to get that oval. Now I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to center them just like I did before with that align option. And then what I'm doing here is this is going to be kind of like the part that we're going to subtract from this shape. So in order to subtract from one shape from another, there's kind of two different ways we can do that. One, we can use the shapebuilder tool, which I also like to refer to as the dead snowman, or we can also use the pathfinder panel. Either one of those options is ideal. So in order to find the pathfinder panel, just like all of our other panels, it's going to be under window, and then we're going to go down to where it says pathfinder. Now we're going to have to make sure that both of these are selected, and for this one we're actually going to minus front because our oval shape is on top of or in front of our circle shape, and so when I click on that, it's going to subtract that shape from the other shape. Now I'm going to undo it, and I'm just going to show you how to also do that with the dead snowman. So again, you have to select both of your shapes. You're doing that with the black arrow, and then you're going to go to the dead snowman, and I'm going to hold down the option key, which is going to give me a subtract sign. So you'll notice that it has a plus sign normally, and if I hit if I hit Alt or Option, depending on what keyboard you have, it's going to give me a subtraction. And so I can actually subtract those shapes from the original shape. So either one of those options is totally fine, and it's going to leave you with that kind of half semicircle that's going to be your face. So now I'm going to put that here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my circle and I'm going to bring it forward. There's a couple different ways that we can do this, but right now I'm going to go to Object and Arrange. Actually, I'm going to move this semicircle out of the way first. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, and now I can place this, and I'm going to also bring that to the front, Arrange, Bring to Front, and I'm going to place this in here. Now, I'm also going to create two little circles. So these are going to be the eyes, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, and I'm going to fill these instead of having a stroke on them. So I'm going to turn that stroke off, and I'm going to fill those, and I'm putting those right here. Again, I'm the black arrow. I'm holding the option key, and that's going to allow me to duplicate the eye. I'm also holding down shift, so that means that those two eyes are going to be exactly in line with one another. Now I feel like my head is a little bit big, so I'm going to just hold option and shift and make it a little bit smaller, and I'm also going to squish this down a little bit because I want to change the proportions a little bit. So that looks a little bit better to me. Now my body seems a little bit too wide too, so I'm just going to adjust all this. Now I'm selecting both of these, and I'm going to use that align to just make sure that they're lined up. Okay. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to be able to make lots of ninjas. Right now, all of our parts are kind of modular, and we want to keep it that way. So I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm just going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to hold down that option key, and I'm going to drag this off to the side, and he's going to be like my little template so that I can kind of make, put a bunch of ninjas into different positions later on. Right now though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this guy, and I'm going to start to kind of color him in and give him all these other aspects that are going to make him look realistic. Okay, so I'm zooming back in on my original guy. I'm going to select all of these different body parts, and this guy is just going to be kind of standing there I'm going to take my shape builder tool, aka the dead snowman, and I'm going to actually combine all of these shapes together, which means I'm just loosely drawing through them. And that is going to make this guy's body into one full shape. Now I'm going to fill the body with a dark gray. So I'm going to go up here to my color panel. If you don't see your color panel, I'm going to just move these out of the way for right now. You're going to go to window, and then you're going to go down to where it says color. And right now I have just my color bar. What I want is actually my sliders. So I'm going to go to the fly down menu, which is these lines at the top, say show options, and I want it to be 95% black. So I'm just going to go in here in my black slider, and I'm going to type in 95, and that's going to give me that black. I'm going to also put a black stroke that's 100% black onto my outline. So I'm going to take the stroke here, and I'm going to make sure that the stroke is in front on my toolbar, and then this time it's at 100% black. I'm going to go to my stroke here, and I want this to be 4 points. So I'm going to click there, just like that. And then I'm going to change the alignment of my stroke. So on my stroke panel, again, if you don't see the stroke panel, you're going to go to window and then go down to where it says stroke. I'm going to go to where it says the fly down and go to where it says show options. This is going to give me lots of different options for my stroke. So I want to add a second stroke, and this is going to require us to use the appearance panel. But first, we want to align this first stroke to the outside. So what it's aligning it to is the outside of my actual path. So I'm going to go down here to where it says align stroke, and I'm going to click on this outside. Now, this shape actually has to be selected in order for this to work. Okay, so now I'm going to add a new stroke, and I'm going to go into the appearance panel. And in the appearance panel, you're going to see all of the strokes and fills that are part of this shape. So currently I just have one stroke and one fill. I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and I'm going to say add new stroke. Now this color, I want it to be like lighter than 93% gray. So I'm going to just choose this 80% one, maybe this 90 is going to be better. And there's a couple things happening here. One, I can't see my black stroke anymore, and that's because my lighter gray stroke is in front of my black stroke. Anytime you have your things listed like this, what is going to happen is the topmost one is going to be in the front. But what I want to do is I want to align that stroke to the inside. So I'm going to go to where it says stroke here, and I'm going to align stroke to the inside. And so now I have one stroke on the outside and one stroke on the inside. And I'm going to do this same thing to my head as well. But there's actually a quick kind of workaround to this because I've applied this double stroke. Okay, both of my strokes are looking a little bit large, so I'm actually going to change them to 3 instead of 4. You can use your judgment on what you think is going to look best. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this same effect to my head. And the way that I can do that is I can do that with graphic styles. So I'm going to click here, and while I have the shape selected, I'm going to add a new graphic style. So I'm going to click on this. What that's going to do is it's going to take all of the information from here, and it's going to put it into this graphic style. So now when I select my head and I click on this, it's going to apply that same graphic style that I had for my body to my head. This is really nice because that means that when I create new ninjas and I have them in different positions, I can actually apply the same settings and these same strokes to those new ninjas without having to redo them. Okay, so now we want to try and change, we don't want to try and change the face, we want to do the face. So we're going to select this part, and I'm going to add a 4-point stroke, and it's going to be on the outside. Remember, I used a 3-point stroke to use on, so I'm going to use 90% for the other one. So I think I'm going to just keep it consistent. So I'm going to choose this. I'm going to go to the outside. And now I'm going to fill it with some skin tones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my swatches panel. And again, if you don't see your swatches, you're going to go to Window and then you're going to go to Swatches. Actually, you're going to go to Window, yep, Swatches. Okay. I'm going to go down to this little library right here, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go until I get to skin tones. And I'm going to click on that. It's going to bring up a whole bunch of skin tones. I can add whatever ones I want to my swatches panel, so I can just kind of click through all these different ones. And this is going to make it a lot easier if I have those in my swatches panel. So while I have this shape selected, I'm going to make sure my fill is in front. I'm going to go back to my swatches panel, and I'm going to select a skin tone. Now I'm going to add another stroke here, and this time I'm going to use a little bit of a darker skin tone, kind of like to create almost like a shadow. Use this one, and I'm going to make it a little bit thinner, and I'm also going to make sure that that stroke is on the inside, and so it's going to give it a little bit of depth here. Okay, just like we did for the outside parts of the ninja, we can also add this to the styles. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add one more stroke, because I think that this needs like a little bit of a black outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another stroke here. This one, I'm going to put it back on the outside, and I'm going to change it to 100% black. And then I'm going to make it, I think I'm just going to make this like half a point. You can decide what size works best for you, but just a little tiny bit. Actually, I don't like it. I can kind of turn these off and on with this. Yeah, not a fan. So I'm going to just get rid of that. So I'm just going to select this here, and I'm going to drag it to the trash can. That's going to get rid of that. So let's make another styles here. If you want to make your ninjas, you know, different skin tones, then you can create multiple styles, or you can just do it all individually, or you can use one style and then kind of go back and change it later. So I'm going to create a new style. So again, I'm selecting the thing that I want to copy. I'm hitting the plus sign, and that's going to make that into a style sheet that I can be then applied to all of my ninjas afterwards. Okay. So the basic version of the character is complete and ready for ninja action. So the next step is to copy and paste that original character and adjust and rotate like his legs so that he has kind of like a little bit more action. So I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to select this. I'm going to use that Option key or the Alt key, depending on what keyboard you have, and I'm going to drag it. So now I can kind of say, okay, well, this guy, he's going to be like jumping kind of this way, maybe with like one hand raised. So basically I'm selecting the black arrow here, and I'm just rotating these limbs and repositioning them. Okay, so once I've done that, now some of them, depending if they're kind of like bending back on themselves or something like that, you might not want to add them when you kind of combine all of the shapes. But so this one I'm not going to combine. I'm going to take these and I'm going to combine all of them. I'm going to use that dead snowman. You can also use the merge on the Pathfinder. Again, it's kind of up to you. So now I want to apply those style sheets to all these different parts. So I'm going to go to my graphic styles. It's this one that I selected. I'm going to apply that. And then for my face, I'm going to apply this one. And there we go. So that ninja is now formed. Now move on to the next one. I'm going to select this guy again, and I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to speed up this part of the video and just create myself a couple of guys, and then we'll talk about the tools. Okay, so the first weapon that we're going to create for these ninjas is a staff. So we're going to use the rectangle tool, and you're going to click and select the rectangle tool and basically just create a really long rectangle. Now I happen to have the style sheet, that's probably too long, the style sheet that I created for the face selected. So it's applying that to this particular shape. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is change the color. So I'm going to fill the inner color with like a darker brown. It's going to be more like this. And then my stroke is going to be black. And I think I'm also going to put like a second stroke. So I'm going to kind of choose like a lighter brown here. Whoops, I made the stroke that color. So I'm going to select my fill. I'm going to do a lighter brown, and then I'm going to add a secondary stroke on the inside that's going to be a darker brown. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to make sure that this is aligned to the inside, and then I'm going to make this one aligned to the outside. And I can make this even smaller. And those multiple colors kind of give it a little bit of an illusion that it is rounded. So I was going to make this like a little bit shorter to kind of be proportional with my guys. All right, the next tool that we're going to create, that one was pretty easy, is we're going to create a throwing star. So this is a fun one to create. We're going to click on the star tool, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to create my star. Again, this is just using the same colors that were used before. Now we're going to use this fun lasso tool, which the lasso tool allows us to draw around the parts of something that we want to select, and we want to just draw around the inside of the star. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting only the inside points of that star, and the rest aren't selected. You can tell which ones are selected because they're filled in, and the ones that aren't selected aren't filled in. Now I'm going to go to my rotate tool, and I'm going to click on that without having had selected anything else besides those inner points, and I'm going to actually turn my I'm just going to click and drag, and you'll see that there's this little bullseye that's kind of set in the center of your shape, and that should be the default. That's your axis. The points are turning around that axis, and because we only have those inside points selected, it creates that throwing star kind of look. So after that, we're actually gonna again work with color. So I'm gonna fill this in with kind of like a light gray. So I'm gonna make the fill light gray. I'm gonna put a stroke on there that's gonna be black, and then I'm gonna add an additional stroke to the inside of that. So I'm gonna just click here. I'm gonna add a second stroke. I'm gonna make sure that that's like a darker gray, and I'm gonna make sure that that's aligned to the inside. This one's aligned to the outside. And I'm also going to add a circle in the center because throwing stars usually have a hole in the middle. So I'm going to choose the ellipse. I'm going to hold shift so that I can get kind of a perfect circle. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to make sure that they are centered both vertically and horizontally. That doesn't look quite right, so I'm just going to move with my arrow to where it looks like it's in the center. I'm going to quick swap these out. So I'm going to make the black black, and then the center black, and then I'm going to make my stroke a little bit darker. And there's our throwing stars. So the next weapon we're going to make is a sword. So we're going to use kind of a similar, I'm going to make these strokes a little bit bigger. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a style sheet out of this. So I'm going to select my throwing star. I'm going to go to my graphic styles and I'm going to add that. So we're going to use that same kind of style for the sword. It's going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to select the star tool again, but this time we're going to start with a triangle. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to click one time on my artboard, and where it says points down here, I'm going to change that to 3, and that's going to give me a triangle. But the reason I'm using the star is because it actually still has these inner points here, even though they don't look like they're doing anything. So what that allows me to do is I'm going to select this top point with my white arrow, and I can either drag it up with the white arrow, or I'm using the arrows on my keyboard to kind of just move it up until it actually looks sort of like a dagger sword. I can hold down shift and it actually allows it to kind of like go a little bit faster. Now I'm going to select these 2 points and I'm going to bring them down so that it has a little bit more of a point to it. And now I'm going to select that, and I'm going to select this graphic style that we created. And then to make it look even more like a dagger, we're going to kind of add this. So with the pen tool, we're going to just kind of like select off of this. So I'm going to click on the black arrow and just kind of click on my artboard. I'm going to select the pen tool. I'm going to find about where the center is here. And then I'm going to go to that point and I'm going to go up to the top of this point. And I'm just creating a triangle. So I'm clicking to create these anchor points. And then when I get back to my first one, it's going to be a shape. And so now I'm going to turn my stroke off and I'm going to fill this with something a little bit darker so it kind of almost looks like a shadow. Okay, and that's going to give that sword like a more realistic kind of look to it. I might even go in here, go to my appearance panel and make my stroke of the inside like a little bit thicker to give it even more of that look. Okay, and now I'm gonna take my rectangle tool. So I'm gonna go to the shape tools here, and I'm going to create a little handle for that I'm gonna make brown. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this guy, I'm gonna make a style, graphic style for him, and then that way I can apply that to the handle of my sword. Okay. All right. So next we're going to do some nunchucks. These wouldn't be ninjas without nunchucks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to make these nunchucks like a little bit bigger. I'm going to create like another rectangle. Actually, you know what? Instead, I'm going to just take my black arrow and I'm going to duplicate this. And then I'm going to rotate it so that it's kind of like off to the side. Okay. Actually, I probably should put them in somebody's hands. No, it'll be fine. So again, I'm going to take both of these. I'm going to apply the same treatment as my staff here. And then I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to go and I'm going to take the ellipse tool and I'm going to create a circle. These are going to be kind of like the chain links for the nunchucks. And I'm going to take that circle. I'm going to apply this graphic style on there. I'm going to hold down the Option key and I'm going to just hold Shift and kind of extend it from the top of the one nunchuck to the top of the other. And then I'm going to hold Shift and select both of them. Now, what's a really cool tool is the blending option. So we're going to go to Object. We're going to go down to where it says Blend. What this does is it basically repeats that circle between the first circle and the last circle, and it kind of makes a bunch of them, which is great. And so it kind of looks like that chain that we're looking for. However, we want it to kind of have some movement to it. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to deselect this. We're going to come up here to what's called the shaper tool, and we're going to click and hold that down and find the pencil tool. Pencil tool is going to allow us to free draw a line. So I'm just going to take a line from here and I'm going to free draw it like this. And it's going to give that line some movement. Now I'm going to select that line with my black arrow. I'm going to hold down Shift to also select my row of circles. And I'm going to go to Object, Blend, and I'm going to go to where it says Replace Spine. So what we're doing is the spine is just that straight line that connects the first circle with the last circle and puts a bunch of circles in between. Now when we're replacing the spine with this curvy line, it's going to put the circles along that line to make it look as though the circles follow that line. Well, they don't look like they do, they actually do. So it's going to give our nunchucks some movement. Okay? So now it's time to kind of put all of these characters here with their weapons. So I'm gonna make these guys a little bit bigger, and I'm gonna add some background colors. So for this I probably will just use a rectangle and kind of create like a little foreground background. And so I'm gonna fast forward through this part, but you guys can use whatever colors you want. You can use patterns if you want. You can get really fancy. But this is just the basics and to see how it's done. All right, can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Okay, so once you're done, you're going to save this as both an Illustrator file, so that way you can always go back and make changes. Or you're also going to save it as a PDF, and that way you can send it to your friends, you can post it, whatever you want to do. So save as, and I'm just going to change the file type to PDF. And that's basically it. Hope you guys have a lot of fun with us. La 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 la. Do me a favor. Like, follow, and subscribe.